And sorry to keep you waiting, folks. Complicated business. This is Cliff of the Iron Mountain Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, June the 21st, 2023. I'm joined by Tim via the magic of Skype. We are coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee, here this summer solstice, this midsummer in 2023. And we would love to have you join us in the conversation. So we've got the Skype open, and we'd invite you to click on that link in the description, and you can send us a message. We can invite you into the call. You don't have to turn on your camera if you don't want to show your face. That'd be just fine. You can just let us know, and we can get you in there on the stream. But you can also hit us up in the channel at chat, and we can talk about whatever you want tonight. We got a few discussions for local stories, and also going to talk about some of the mythology surrounding midsummer or the summer solstice. So how's it going, Tim?
Can't complain. What's going on with you?
Well, in honor of Apollo here, we're having a summer ale, and it's quite tasty tonight. But I had a family member had an accident earlier tonight, and there's a lot of accidents going on. If you've been watching the scanner feed at all, you've seen them all over the place. What's up, Dalton? But that kind of preoccupied me for a while, and I kind of didn't really think about doing the show for a few hours, and got home and settled down and everything, and I started working on my lumber order for my deck, and then I looked down and was like, oh shit, it's after 10 o'clock. Sorry for being late, folks. You know how it is. Sometimes you get these other things going on, and things slip your mind. So hope this just gave you more time to get into the channel and tune into the chat. So glad to have you with us for sure, Dalton. Now, I've got a well, I like those summer ales pretty good. They got they're almost like a blue moon, but not as rich, and have like a little bit of a lemon tang instead of a orange kick to them.
What is it now?
I said the Sam Adams Summer Ale. It's like a
okay.
wheat ale with like a little bit of a lemon kick to it. It's good hot weather beer, good yard mown beer. Happy solstice. Welcome in, Spill.
Yeah.
Now that
Sam Adams isn't like a bad beer, but like
it's not great.
How do I describe it? It's like it's the
middies.
most. If there was a beer that they wanted to make it be the most liquid bread ish, it would be Sam Adams. Like if somebody said, "Here's water that's flavored like white bread," but in your case, white bread and some orange peels or something.
Yeah,
that's what it would taste like, right?
I don't know. It's
not gross. It's just really shocking.
It's got a little more taste than like a regular American. The cherry wheat, you like that, Dalton? I'm not a huge fan of that. It's okay. I would like it if it had a little less cherry. If it was, it's just the cherry's a little strong for me in that one. But I do like the overall flavor. But the summer ale, it's a little strong on the lemon, but it's all right. Summertime when you're like mowing the yard or something like that, it's a good yard mowing beer. But today I was ordering deck materials, so it almost felt like I was working on the yard. I like most Sam Adams. I think they're all okay. None of them are terrific, but they're all pretty good.
I don't know. I think like I'm not a beer person.
Yeah.
But when in Rome, the only kind of beer that somebody offers me that I can't even fake is just those skunky ones.
Yeah. IPAs.
Like, is that what they're called? I know Corona.
My wife says they taste like earwax, and I can see why she says that.
I don't know that one. I just know
What's up, Alvin?
Like a Corona and a Heineken. I know they both.
Corona's
they
skunky.
smell like skunk. Yeah.
I mean, Heineken is skunky.
So yeah, I can't do Heineken.
Yeah, I thought maybe if we started a little bit late, or since we started a little bit late, Alvin might get in closer to the conversation. So glad to have you with us, Alvin. Just kidding, man. I was a little preoccupied with some ongoing emergency situations, and then I got when I was kind of cooling down a little bit, I was ordering material for my deck and forgot all about doing the show for a little while. But I did have a couple stories I wanted to look at for tonight. I had this stuff already ready because I thought it was something y'all would be interested in checking out. We got this from WJHL. If you remember, we were talking about a couple weeks ago when they found the rhinoceros, and what was the other thing they found? An ancient armadillo from millions of years ago over at the Gray Fossil site in Johnson City. Well, they've just recently, apparently, well, released the news anyway, that they found a mass grave in Jonesboro, a 150-year-old mass grave in Jonesboro. In 1873, this is from WJHL, pestilence visits Jonesboro. In the summer of 1873, a wave of cholera swept the American South, caused by a bacterial infection of Vibrio cholerae, followed railroad lines across the state. Historical sources say Greenville was nearly abandoned through July and August of 1873 after the arrival of disease, and that refugees from the city were some of the first recorded cases in Jonesboro. So, yeah, apparently they found this grave just very recently. We'll get into the submarine here in just a little bit. Happened to find a meme on that I thought encompassed it fairly well. And let's see here. Let's continue on this story for now, though. The first case, the resident population was the wife of a man who had waited at the bedside of the first case in Greenville. He was a nurse and waited by the bed of the first lady who had the cholera down there. And then his wife got it, and they ended up calling it King Cholera. And many of the town's residents fled to the countryside, and very small minority remained behind to guard the others' possessions and transport supplies and care for the sick. And mid-July, mid-August, there's like 100 people in there, and then like 30 or 40 of them die. So they find this stuff in the Jonesboro Herald from that time. They published it every Thursday, and every Thursday they'd have a report on the progress of the cholera. And the epidemic was probably over around August 14th of 1873. And they had a list of names who died, and it totaled 34, but there apparently were more than that, and there's still questions about where they were. And they weren't in the database, the cemetery database, and a lot of people just didn't know where their family members were buried from back then. And some local historians went and figured it out. Gordon Edwards, he's a volunteer historian, and he specializes in cemetery work with Heritage Alliance. And he said that there's always been the tale of a mass grave out there somewhere. But anyway, they scanned dozens of burial sites and never really came up with it. And several times, and evidently those folks are been pretty frustrated with it, but they basically just got a hunch based on the description of the site being in a bend in the property, and an old photo that showed a fenced area that was kind of taken over by the woods. And they cleared the area, and this guy, what's his name, Jones, he comes back. He's a guy who's Dr. Robert Jones. He's an archaeologist. He's been working with Edwards, and they find this patch of ground that's about 12 by 12, and it's about 14 feet deep. And without digging, they don't really want to go anymore. But let's see. Here's a picture of the grave site. But that's where they've got it marked. But not a big site, but way big for one grave. And that would have been, let's see. They don't really know how many people might be in there because they haven't dug up anything. But they did determine that it's the right age and the right area and the right size to be this mass grave. So who knows? Will they inter the thing, or what will they do? When they find these things, a lot of times they'll actually give them named headstones and stuff. But I don't really know how exactly they do that. But they want to at least give people headstones and let people know who lived there and who died there. So they've come a long ways towards doing that. Yeah, the thoughts on the Titanic submarine. Yeah, that there was. If y'all hadn't seen that story, apparently there was some billionaires who were working with a company called Ocean Gate, where they built a submarine and were going down to try to, I don't know what were they doing, to study, or were they trying to bring back some of the wreckage of the Titanic, or treasure hunt, or what is it? But either way, these guys were, they put together this rinky-dink looking submarine that apparently didn't even conform to safety standards, but the company that made it was like, oh, well, there's innovation that we've made that requires us not to conform with it because we have other ways of being safe. So anyway, these guys go down in this submarine. It's apparently tomorrow afternoon. It's supposed to run out of oxygen. They've lost communication with them. They've no idea where these people are. They're searching an area, I think the size of Connecticut, looking for them. And as far as I know, they've only got things like sonar and radar and radio that they can really even look for them with. So the odds are not looking in their favor, unfortunately. But Alvin says another Simpsons episode predicted. I didn't know that. I know they predicted something about the Elon Musk like offering to rescue the kids in the cave with the submarine a few years ago, if you remember that. But I didn't know that one. But let's see if I can get this meme up on the screen here for y'all that I saw earlier today. And it's not necessarily accurate, but it is something that is kind of, it does seem to follow. So give me just one moment here. Sorry, I downloaded this earlier and I didn't share it with myself like I usually do for the show. But I've only got myself on screen. Sorry, Tim. I'll get you.
You're good.
Back up here in just a second.
Everybody. Pretend I'm just off camera and I'm in the same room so people get real confused.
Okay. I'm trying to get it set up where we have a speaker on the screen at a time. Okay, there we go. But there does seem to be a theme, doesn't there? It says the I Can't Breathe psyop is still going. Does seem to be something we keep hitting with. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. They made it a national slogan, for God's sakes. And then we had everybody live in fear of a virus that made you not be able to breathe. And it's kind of over and over and over again we get hit with that. So pretty wild there, If it's a psyop, it does follow the same pattern. If not, it's an odd coincidence, huh?
I think there's just a lot of me, who is very definitely ADHD, for whatever that's worth, tend to have a characteristic known as unnecessary pattern recognition. Do you think there's a lot of that going on out there?
Yeah, perhaps, because, when people who weren't used to recognizing patterns suddenly start recognizing patterns, your pattern recognition can be on overdrive. And it's kind of like when a lot of people start noticing that a lot of these conspiracy theories that they've thought were crazy their whole lives are real, and suddenly they find out a few of them are true, and they kind of just get blown wide open, and they're just like, ready to believe anything that sounds suspicious. And certainly I've been guilty of that, and still am every now and then from time to time. But I've become skeptical once again.
I think that's where a lot of delusion comes from.
When it comes to anything good, though, what's that?
Well, you said you've been guilty of that, but you've never, I don't know, maybe this would get real interesting. But you've never fallen for anything or gotten sucked into a world of believing the earth was flat, for example. I know that's a cliche one that we would use. I mean, there's other ones out there that would be, I don't know, just as argumentative with people online. But do you think by the time you get, think of how many layers of conspiracies and stuff you have to dig through before you're willing to start questioning the shape of the earth. Like you don't that's not like the first conspiracy you come across. You're like, dang holy Lord. Like you have to start with like JFK, right? Or a moon landing or something and work your way through layer cakes worth of stuff before you finally start questioning whether or not the
I think
sun.
it's more like you find out that one of those things that you thought was a conspiracy theory is actually true. Like say, I don't know, let's just say the JFK, since you used that one, that's a good example. You find out, oh well, it's likely the CIA actually did kill Kennedy, and it's actually there actually were a team of assassins that worked on this project. You know what's next? You believed the government your whole life, and suddenly you're ready to believe. Well, it doesn't take a lot to convince you that the moon landing didn't happen. It doesn't take a lot to convince you then that the Earth is flat. It's kind of once your worldview's kind of been shattered, it's easy to build a new worldview that's not really based in reality either, because what you thought was real for your whole life was not real. So I can see how people fall into the trap. But real quick, we got this a story from WJHL, the Old Butler Museum. We've talked about that before, but back in 1948, Old Butler was flooded when the TVA completed the Watauga Dam, and it's the only incorporated town ever flooded by the TVA. So it was actually a incorporated city or township here in northeast Tennessee, right at the border of Southwest Virginia and northwestern North Carolina, and you can hit right out to Highway 67 on the Old Butler Museum there, and they'll show you all kinds of stuff about the old town there. But it's pretty cool. This one feller, 101-year-old Joe Lipford, is one of just a few remaining people who lived in the original town, and he's still angry. He says, that dam ruined this country here. He said, if you knew the country, if you were going here to Butler and you needed a drink of water, all you needed to do was just step off the side of the road. He was born in 1921 near Old Butler in Cobb's Creek, another Watauga Valley settlement taken under by the dam, and he still carries fond memories of traversing the hills while possum hunting with his uncle. So, yeah, go check out the Old Butler Museum if you're around there. And I think that feller is the guy who runs the museum. But yeah, it's pretty neat. We talked about how the TVA was here's a shot of the town there. How the TVA was a privately owned corporation, or private corporation owned by the federal government. And some of these foundations and some of these buildings are still actually under the lake. I think the old jail and the old schoolhouse is still under there. And there's somebody moving their house out of town before the lake is flooded. And yeah, go check it out. Pretty neat place. Let's see if anybody's in the Skype. What's that?
I don't. I mean, you could probably play it, or if anything else, I think you personally would like a pretty cool song I found. I don't know who did it, but I think some of the sessions musicians from ETSU did it. I found it when they were a guy I know was doing a documentary about the floods over in Kentucky and Southwest Virginia that killed all those people. He was looking for music to put in there. And we found this pretty cool song that he put in the intro, or he found it, and I really like the song. It's called "When the Water Goes Down," and it's about flooding Butler, but it's a hillbilly noir song about somebody murdering somebody and then burying them right before they flood it, and he's worried because yeah, it was like I forget when they did it, but they actually did drain Butler for some reason. He's worried they're going to find the body.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
They drained it, I think, in like the early 2000s. It was either it might have been the early 90s. I can't remember. It's kind of crazy, man, because I'm not that old, but I remember when they did it. But I can't remember if I was like, 12 or 22 or whatever, Let's see. Let's look it up. Drained Butler, Tennessee. When did they draw it down? They drew it down in 83, but they drew it down after that too, I'm pretty sure. Here's pictures of when they drew it down in 83 though. But I was not old enough to remember this, but I remember them doing it, so this couldn't have been what I remember. People driving their trucks through the bed of the lake. I don't see it.
Yeah.
See the time I remember them doing it, there were pictures of old building foundations and like partial walls and stuff were still there.
Yeah, I think they've drained it twice. My dad said that the first time they drained it, he remembered people taking four-wheelers and going down there. And one of the things him and his, I think one of my uncles had like a license plate they had found or something. So yeah, I think they may have drained it more than once.
I'm pretty sure they did. Hang on, let me see if I can find it again now.
Okay.
Pretty sure because I've seen more pictures of that. I think it was within the last 20 years, but maybe I'm mistaken.
I'm wanting to say 35 years. I think it's been a little long.
Well, 83 is when they drained it, so maybe that's the only time they drained it. Maybe I've only seen pictures of it. One of those things, you know. Let's see.
I have only seen pictures of it. I didn't actually go see that, but I heard is all.
Well, I've seen pictures of building foundations. Let's see.
Basically means I'm the perfect judge because I'm all about that hearsay.
Oh yeah, I guess you are.
Ooh,
Well, maybe
yeah.
I've only seen pictures. I swear to God, it's one of those things that's like it's so. I guess the picture is so ingrained in my memory that it's like that I couldn't even. That it was almost like I experienced it, but heck, it's.
Well, if it's a hillbilly Mandela effect,
It must be. It must not have happened.
Appalachian Mandela effect, it's starting to hit
Must
home.
not have happened the way I remember it. But some of these things with your old memories are just kind of crazy. 'Cause there's things that my family will tell me sometimes, and I'll be like, "There's no way I was there. I would not have forgotten that." And they're like, "No, you were there. I swear." Like, I really have no memory of it. That sounds like too crazy of a story for me to have forgotten that. But let's go on to the next story. Yeah, y'all follow the scanner food, right? We got a big black cloud in the woods reported in Smith County, Virginia. Let's listen to this real quick.
Show us in the area. Does the caller indicate where this is?
When did this happen?
The intersection of the Perryville Road, Allison Grab,
This weekend.
correction gap, stated that he just saw a big black cloud up in the woods. Didn't see any. Show us in the area. Does the caller indicate where this is? The intersection of the Perryville Road, Allison Grab, correction gap, stated that he just saw a big black cloud up in the woods. Didn't see.
A big black cloud up in the woods. We ever heard anything like that before?
Only at Satan parties.
There's a big black cloud in the woods. There must be a Satan party.
Or we're on the island. The cliche one is lost. Smoke monsters coming after us.
There's stories of things like big black clouds, like masses of birds, big smoke clouds coming through, monsters. There's not not one particular legend about it, but there's a lot of different things and lots of imagery of black clouds. But I think there was an X-Files episode with like a big black cloud that comes through the woods, but I don't know. Maybe it's the Nothing.
It's the nanobot Nothing.
Mm. Do you ever read the book? Well, no, you don't read, but you ever, I don't know, maybe they made a movie, but there's a Michael Crichton book called Prey, and it's about, I think it's called Prey. A lot of his movies have, or novels have one name or one word titles, but it's about basically a nanobot swarm that can, go through and just kind of consume anything and use it for energy and recreate itself and repopulate itself and kind of make itself look like whatever it wants. And it's kind of like The Thing, but with nanobots. But the thing is with Michael Crichton, he's somebody who uses existing technology and takes it to like the logical conclusion, like things like Jurassic Park. Like, yeah, it's a little bit off on as far as, okay, we can't actually get DNA from dinosaurs, but if they could, they would be able to do everything in Jurassic Park. So, and the technology for it existed in the 80s. So they've really had the ability to clone all kinds of things. They've had the ability to make swarms of flesh-consuming, self-replicating nanobots for decades now. So the idea that they're not doing this stuff is just kind of pretty far-fetched to me. As far as a lot of the genetic engineering and stuff in Crichton's books, such as Next, the book State of Fear, with how the climate crisis was being used to engineer the world. There's a lot of truth to his books, and a lot of the things that he predicted with how a lot of these scientific discoveries and all this technology will be used has come to pass. So anyway, let's catch up on the chat here. Go ahead. What?
Have you seen the synthetic embryos?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Tell us about it.
Or they won't even call them that. They'll call them embryo-like structures. It's like, well, all right, scientists are getting real lawyer-esque now, aren't they?
So anybody didn't see it, scientists claim they've created the ability to produce a human being without a sperm or an egg. So, a golem, a modern golem. Let's see here. Alvin says, he attached the meme to his lumber order. Yeah, no, I actually didn't send the meme to myself. I just downloaded it and didn't send it to myself in time for the show. Yeah, you got, when you're spending, thousands of dollars in lumber, you want to be careful. Make sure you have the orders just right. And then, like, I've got the order going in multiple carts, price checking, and like, oh, can I order this on this new credit card where I'll get a $200 rebate and then, pay the credit card off and save $200, or should I order it with the Lowe's card and get 5% off? So weighing all these decisions, and then I'm like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. But you know how it is. I think a lot of y'all are homeowners. Most of y'all that I've talked to about it are homeowners. Tim, I know you are. So you know what it's like. But Alan says, from an old guy, this society likes to call those who conform as normal and abnormal for anyone who questions authority. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. It's not just for an old guy. But Alvin says there were 9, 3 for each route through Dealey Plaza. Yeah, I've not gone terribly in depth in it. I do know E. Howard Hunt talked about he was part of one of the teams, and that there were multiple teams of multiple men who were set up for the big event. And he, confessed that to his son in an hour-long tape, and I watched all that. And he did say, basically that he was working with the CIA at the time, and that they had the big event. But he really, even for a deathbed confession, he didn't use a lot of specifics. But there's a whole lot of evidence that there were people, not only they like to throw up the grassy knoll as like the only thing, but that was just one of many spots where people were. And a lot of the original witnesses, that if you look on the tape, they're ducking and they're getting down from there, because that's where the fire is coming from. And a lot of the original witnesses pointed to somebody firing from there as well as in front of the motorcade. So a lot of different information there. It's hard to go back 60 years now and know exactly. It'll be 60 years this year. Stephen King wrote a book called 11/22/63 about a person who tried to go back, who went back in time to the Kennedy assassination. I've not read the book. I liked a lot of Stephen King's stuff, and I don't know, he's kind of ruined it for me with opening his mouth. He's always been political, but he was never just nasty and a dick all the time like he is now. So I don't know, he's kind of turned me off to him. I really don't want to give him money, even as much as I liked a lot of his work up through about 20 years ago. Let's see. Alvin says, flatter around, my life still goes on unchanged. Yeah, it's true. Seems, I mean, it is important, but to get hung up on such a thing, unless you are like a scientist trying to prove that to other people, I don't. Yeah. Spill says, yeah, when most were flipping out who the prez is, I said at the end of the day, I do what I do no matter what. And Alvin gives that a big amen, and I do too. Alvin says, curbside storm drains have been painted out of the modern pics. Sturgis, Hunt, and Harrelson were one of the 3 teams. Yeah, that was what I always heard, is the storm drains were where the likely shot to the neck and the head actually came from. If you look at the grassy knoll, it's on the other side of where the one shot went back into the left, which would indicate would be coming from the front and to the right a bit, which is where one of those storm drains was located, and then the grassy knoll was over on the other side. Not that there wasn't a shooter there. There was probably, like Alvin said, he says there were 3 teams of 3, and I believe him. So. AKA the 3 Tramps. Yeah, that's right. The guys were dressed up as hobos. Yep. All kinds of stuff out there about that. If you're into it, definitely look it up. If you haven't looked that up, you should. I'm not an expert on it, but it seems pretty obvious to me that there is an abundance of evidence that U.S. intelligence agencies were involved domestically in the project in either having kill teams, or 9 shots were fired, Alvin says. So either hiring contract kill teams or having their own men in there as kill teams. So and then with the confession of Hunt and all this stuff about how he was a backup team in Florida in case they failed. And this was after he had ordered the troops out of Vietnam. This was after he had put the kibosh on the Bay of Pigs invasion. This was after he had said he would scatter the CIA to 1,000 pieces and or smash it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. This was after he had started the process of trying to return to sound money. The Umbrella Man, Alvin says, at the school book depository. I don't know I don't remember about the umbrella. If you're referring to George Bush, it sure looks like George Bush was standing out in front of him, a young George Bush in one of those photos there. And he went on to become the CIA director under President Carter. And he said, or was it President Ford he became there and then served under Carter? But either way, he was there in the late 70s and said, oh, the CIA, I was never a CIA agent. I was never in the CIA before. And then suddenly he was appointed director. But yeah, he was supposedly, according to his life history, was a World War II pilot. He was shot down and actually managed to get back in the sky, and if I'm not mistaken, was shot down again in his plane, the Barbara. But he was also working. He founded an oil company as a pot of oil operating in the area of Cuba at the time that all this stuff was going down in Cuba in the early 60s and late 50s. He was there was a George Bush that's mentioned in CIA documents as being an operative down there, and it just all makes sense. And then you see him in those pictures down there. He ends up becoming CIA director in the late 70s, supposedly without having served as the CIA. He said, Alvin says it was after he signed the executive order to start reprinting U.S. currency, not Federal Reserve notes. Yeah, there was a lot of things really right in the year up. He was really sticking it to the establishment. And if you look at Kennedy now, you would think he was a conservative. He was actually more conservative than Reagan by far. But that's kind of how far, progress has moved the American politics, to where somebody who was a Democrat at the time and considered a progressive, Kennedy, would be considered, an ultra conservative right now. But yeah, there was a lot of reasons, that a lot of things that he did that really bucked the system. And in a lot of ways, you could look at him as like the Donald Trump of the day, because he was, you know, seen as a womanizer. He was, you know, somebody from a wealthy family. He was the first Catholic. He was one of the youngest presidents. I think he was like a second president, second youngest elected. Roosevelt was the youngest elected. And so he was not like Trump in that way, but definitely a monkey wrench in the system, in the gears of the system in a lot of ways. So he was like him in that regard. Now let's look here at, I don't know about any black cloud stories other than the one I heard here, but I did want to mention that. The last thing I wanted to show y'all was, where'd it go? Not my lumber order. We're going to talk summer solstice for a second. Summer solstice in ancient Greek and modern times. We're talking from this is a pagan blog, you know, from, this is River Inodian on Pathos.com, but River's got some good information here. So, summer solstice, often referred to as midsummer. That was what it was called. What's that?
Have you seen that movie?
Midsummer Night's Dream?
Midsummer.
Midsummer.
No, there's I guess you'd call it a horror movie. It's called Midsummer. I don't want to say another word. Just watch it, please.
Okay. Those who make peaceful resolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable, says JFK. Yeah. Yep. That's the story of history, really, right? Is if they can have a peaceful revolution, they like to, because they can control that, or somebody else takes power with a peaceful revolution. But if they don't, then it becomes violent. And as Ron Paul has said, though, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. I'm not sure if that's his original quote or not, but he said it a lot. But the over there in the Mediterranean area, in the time of the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, the calendars pivoted around the summer solstice. It was the longest day of the year, and you had it was a celebration of Apollo, among other things. But with Apollo, or Apollon, he's one of the old deities we talk about from Greek and Roman history. He's the sun god, and he's, some of the things he does is, if you look at it kind of from like the peasant's point of view, right, the basic person who's trying to understand the world, Apollo is kind of given the representation of, he's given as a personification of the sun, because he's like he's shown with an arrow with, you know, a gold bow and gold arrows, you know, the sun's rays shining down on the earth, you know, that he can be deadly, or he can make youths grow. Like, that's another thing. He can make young people grow. He's concerned with the health and education of children in addition to that. So it's like, it's showing both sides of it. You've got the enlightening ray of the light of life, and then you've also got the enlightenment of education and the enlightenment of knowledge. Medicine and healing also, you know, just like the sun. When the sun goes, what was like protection of shepherds and sheep and flocks and things like this, because, you know, it's time for, when the sun comes out, it kills off the bacteria that are growing on the stuff. It makes it easier to survive. You don't have to go out and make your own fire. So Apollo covers a lot of things that people see on a normal basis. So he's a good personification of one of the forces of nature. He can bring ill health and deadly plagues, and his sister Artemis and he kind of are said to have invented archery. And I think Artemis, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was like the side of it with war, and he was like the side of it with the golden arrows, with the sun. And he kind of was more of a, they both led cults, but if you go back to the word Apollo, it's not found. Okay, to boil it down simply, it may actually mean Hyperion. That may be the original wording of the word Apollo. They don't really know because it was used. It's used in Greek and Roman, and it's also called Apollon or Apollyon. And no matter how they say his word, he always seems to be the same character. And a lot of people have said that this guy might be Lucifer himself, the star of the morning, also representative of Venus. And if you look outside right now, Venus is high in the sky and I don't think it started retrograde motion yet. So I think it'll still get a little bit higher here. So let's actually look and see about Venus's retrograde in 2023 when that starts. So yeah, it starts retrograde on the 22nd. So if you'll look and notice that at the, when it starts getting dusk, you'll start seeing Venus in the sky, and it'll be pretty high, and it'll be barely visible at first, but as night goes on, it'll head on down towards the horizon, but it'll continue to start higher in the sky up until July 22nd, and that's when it'll actually hit retrograde, and it'll kind of go back for a little while, and we'll start to see it head back towards the horizon, and I think it takes a little dip and comes back up a little while, and in like September, and then it'll come back up for a little while and then head back down again. It's pretty wild because we're so close to Venus, how it actually will change its path in the sky several times throughout the year as we go through it. So look out for that there, and you can get into the whole mythology of Venus if you want to. That's a whole nother story. But since we got started late tonight, I won't keep y'all much longer. Tim, do you have anything else to add to the show before we leave tonight? I don't know what we're going to do yet Sunday. I got a couple ideas, but I haven't decided on one for sure. So, Tim, is there anything you'd like to comment on? And we'll check out the chats before we get out of here.
No.
Alvin says it was Voltaire. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. So, thank you, Alvin. I thought you might know.
Voltaire, the folk musician?
I think the French philosopher.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that too. Probably wasn't the Las Vegas-based folk musician.
Hey, you never know. He might have come with something, profound.
Yes. But in the off chance, before we go offline, that is a completely legit accident that's going on with that container. That's horrifying, and I hope they get up because that's scary. I think something that's a little weird is the way some people on Facebook are kind of just making fun of it because it's a billionaire or whatever. It's like, that's still terrifying. I think, you know what I'm saying? That's like we've lost enough empathy in us that now it's just okay for the whole world to mock people that aren't dead yet, and that's kind of a bad place for society to be in.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it though, that's kind of the human condition. There are some peasants who are going to be sad the king is dead, and some people are going to be, well, I didn't vote for him,
Yeah, but this is just not really a king. This is actually the founder of the company that's down there with them. So it's not like he sank them and then ran away to some other company like that dude from the cryptocurrency thing. This guy actually believed enough in his product to go down in with them, and now he's down there in the same position. And I'm saying, I don't know. I looked up the guy's biography, and if he's real, he founded an ocean company because he didn't have good eyesight. He couldn't be an astronaut. And that's the next best thing, next best horizon that he could go into. And it's like,
that's pretty good.
I just don't want to inherently hate people because they have more money.
Oh, I don't hate the guy. No, I don't. I hope they're all right.
I'm not speaking against you. Yeah. No, I'm not speaking against you. It just seems like there's a whole lot of people across the globe right now that are kind of making really light of the situation that I personally would be terrified. It's terrifying. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. No, I think what I'm saying is I think that's kind of always been the human condition. Is you hear a story of some rich guy who's got it bad. There's going to be a large percentage of, the lower class of economic civilization who's going to be like, well, Haha, too
Yeah,
bad.
I
Guess all
guess.
that money can't save you. I don't think that's anything new, but yeah, I agree. You're
I
the
guess.
the idea that spreading that sentiment around and trashing someone because they have more money. I don't think that is productive in any way.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to even be the person that poo poos on people's humor. If that,
Yeah,
because I understand also that humor and laughing at stuff is also kind of like for a lot of people, is sort of a coping mechanism.
yeah.
You know,
Got
so
a
I
little
mean, I don't
something.
want to sit there. I don't want to poo poo on somebody's good time if they just need dark humor in their life. All I wanted to say was maybe be careful what that does to you as a person if you indulge in certain kinds of dark entertainment. You know,
Yeah.
that's all. You know, just guard your soul for whatever that
I'll be
means.
the
You know.
first to admit though, man. I mean, I don't really do it publicly, but like with my family and my close friends, like if something serious has happened, I'm the first guy to make a really fucked up joke to as my way of handling it or trying to help other people handle it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But
People
it's
don't
kind of it's
understand
kind of
laughing at humor.
something I can't really help. It's just something I do, and like I said, most of the time it adds levity to the situation and time it right, and other times, particularly if I try to do it with my wife, it's not very effective.
No, I think people just don't understand the actual good intentions behind joke telling at funerals and stuff.
Yeah,
Because the psychology behind that is people that are trying to make everybody else feel a little bit better is because, you know what I'm saying? It's like empathy. It's
yeah,
like you don't really want these people to feel so bad, so you try to lighten the mood. So I do get that. I don't think that makes you a bad person for doing that on like a personal level. Uh, I think from like a societal level, I'm just seeing like it kind of goes into lol cow culture.
yeah,
I know I come back to that, but it's like the idea that it's okay to punch down to the very lowest level because this person has like a dark past or something like that. But they're a little like laughing at homeless people at that point, you know, like
yeah.
this is allegedly, I guess this would be like the most punching up you could do because this is a billionaire.
Well, really, because he's how many
Yeah, I'm
leagues
feeling
under
like,
the sea and dying of suffocation, most likely,
yeah,
or
it's
he
still like
discovered the hollow earth. I mean,
it's well, yeah, it's also the Titanic, and maybe that's the gateway to the breakaway civilization.
yeah, Galt's
Who
Gulch,
knows?
as
I'm
it
just
were.
yeah. I just guard your soul. Don't laugh. Try not to laugh too much at bad stuff for too long, or you know it starts to eat away at you. That's all,
Yeah,
people.
if you do laugh at others in misfortune, don't do it out of enjoyment or indulgence. Do it out of you know. I think it's one thing to do it out of cope or out of discomfort or you know whatever you call the word to mean that you don't know how to act. Bad social
Heck,
graces or whatever.
or don't listen to us,
Huh?
or don't listen to us if that's not good. Just you know, if you want to be a
Yeah,
terrible person, you
do
can do
whatever
that
do
too.
whatever you want out there, but do come back on Sunday at 10 p.m. Hopefully, we'll be starting at 10 p.m. this time, and we'll get into a discussion of some sort or another on some topic or another related to the conspiracy or hidden history, and we'll have a local history story going on. We got a few things to choose from, so I haven't decided exactly what we want to do yet. Got a few work in the works and in the pipe, and a few different shows written, and not sure which one we're going to do yet. So we'll see Sunday what that is. So hopefully you'll join us. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Spill. Thank you. Oh man, that guy's getting big.
Yeah, he
Thank you,
is.
Dalton, for being with us. Let's see. Anybody else in the chat? I know there's more people out there because I can see y'all watching. But thank you for joining us. And next time, somebody jump in that Skype. It'd be really lovely to have you talk to us on live out there. I know Lee is interested, so Lee, we'll look forward to you one of these days jumping in on that talk radio style. Um, we had a call that came for 11 seconds. It looks like today. Um, if you will, anybody who wants to jump in this chat, what you'll have to do, because I don't get a notification if you call. If you'll send me a chat on here, I can invite you
You can
in.
join it. You can actually just join via the link. I think it's open. That's how I got in.
Yeah, I think it is open, so you should be able to. But if you call, I don't get a notification. So yeah, if you join, just jump right in there, and we'd love to have you on. Whoever it was that tried to get in. But
And
anyway,
then go,
we'll
whoa,
be back.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, what Tim said. See you Sunday. Everybody have
You
a
got
good night.
holiday away.
Toodles, says Alvin. Later, y'all.